All right, let's move into Penn State firing head coach James Franklin after 12 years. Some say it was warranted, some say it was necessary, others maybe say be careful what you wish for. Andrew, what do you say?
Yeah, I say that this is definitely warranted, but maybe not at the middle of the season. I think that with Drew Aller going out for the season and just in general, the way that they're playing as a team, this team will probably look like it's bad enough for him to be fired anyway by the end of the season. Like, I don't think that there's going to be any big wins that kind of sure up his spot and give him an extra year at this point. But yeah, no, the record against top teams and just in general, the way the season has gone was enough for maybe like last year, the year before, especially before he got to the college football playoff, and that was a monkey on his back and had less top 10 wins than he does right now. But yeah, the glaring stat about James Franklin is 4-21 against top 10 teams, and then 1-18 against Big Ten top 10 teams, and then that one win coming like almost a decade ago off like that blocked field goal against Ohio State. Like, there's just some things that you can't run from as a head coach, and getting big wins is one of them. It is something that you talk about every single time you mention that Penn State team under James Franklin. They could just never win that big one, and yeah, it is unfortunate because they are coming off a season where they go to the college football playoff and made it to the college football semifinal, where they were like a possession away from getting to the national championship game, but even so, like there's just some things you can't do as a coach with a top 10 roster, and then that Oregon loss in like with a whiteout behind your home crowd, that was already a bad loss, especially with like Oregon losing as well to Indiana. But then you go out and then you lose to UCLA, which was the worst Power Four school at the time, and then you lose to Northwestern, who's one of the worst schools in the Big Ten, pretty consistently, and this year as well. So those three losses combined kind of just like sees you into firing no matter what. I don't think it had to be right now, but it was going to happen at some point, and those all that put together kind of just makes up what James Franklin's career is going forward.
Yeah, so I can't really argue with his record against the top teams in the Big Ten and the top teams in the country. Like, you're right, that is something that you can't run from as a coach. But I did initially, when I heard this, say just be careful what you wish for, because we've seen some programs not be able to get that next head coach in the door, or all of these great candidates look like they're the guy, and sometimes they're still not, even if they have pretty decent success at a decent sized program. So my initial reaction was definitely watch out if you're Penn State, because 9 and 10 win seasons pretty consistently is very hard to come by, and you don't want to take it for granted. I don't know if you are going to find your Marcus Freeman like Notre Dame did. Notre Dame, I didn't fire Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly left for LSU, but they had a guy in house and it worked. And there was a kind of a culture change, and it was fitting for the time. And I compare it to that because Brian Kelly brought Notre Dame kind of back into that national spotlight. They could never win the big game with Brian Kelly, but they still got to the playoffs a couple times, and they did get to a national championship game. So there was that kind of similarity that I see. And then when it comes to James Franklin, him and Bill O'Brien brought that program back. And I'm not saying, that should keep you, keep you in under their payroll forever. And that he actually currently is under their payroll now for like however many years. But like, you know what I mean? Like, he was part of that program and the resurgence in the building of it back, because Penn State could have been completely irrelevant after everything that happened. So I initially say be careful what you wish for. You have to get a big hire, I think, here. But I don't know how many of the coaches that are being thrown around are all that interested. Like, I don't know if Lane Kiffin is leaving for Penn State. I don't know if Kurt Cignetti is leaving Indiana for Penn State right now.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of circle back to the Brian Kelly LSU and Notre Dame situation, but like with Kurt Cignetti, I think that that's like an interesting tie where I think that Indiana, we'll touch on this later, is a really great football team, but just the history of the program, and if you want like those big resources and the ability to consistently recruit at the top level, I think Penn State is that school more than Indiana is, especially if you're looking for a Big Ten comparison to what Notre Dame was to LSU. I understand that Notre Dame's not in the SEC, or like they're completely not in the conference at all, but still, I think that comparison could be made there, where Kurt Cignetti is definitely a name that's being rumored around, especially with this season. I think that if he's offered that job, like there's definitely a possibility that he takes it, and I think that is the comparison where I'd see there, where for Brian Kelly, Notre Dame just like wasn't it didn't feel like they were ever going to get over the edge. And that could be the same, like that could be Curt Cignetti's same thoughts towards like Indiana, especially if they go out in the second round of the playoffs this year, and that Penn State job is available. Because Penn State has shown an ability, or at least James Franklin at Penn State shown an ability to recruit at a very high level. They came into the season the top 10 roster and were definitely one of the contenders for the college football playoff at the very least, the college football national championship at the very most. So I think that is a name that is floated out that I could see possibly if Curt wants the job. And then I think Manny Diaz, just like circling around the world of who could be Penn State's next head coach. He was their defensive coordinator for 2 years, and he did a really good job with that defense, rebuilding that after leaving Miami. And knowing who Manny Diaz is as a Miami Hurricanes fan, I don't know that that's the splash hire that you want. He's not the greatest recruiter in the world, and he definitely had some times where I was like questioning what I was watching on my screen when it came to like play calling, at least defensively. That we had a couple bad defenses, and then also just in general, like use of timeouts, all these different things where Manny Diaz kind of came up short, and was the reason Miami ended up letting him go. But I think that could be a homecoming where he just coached there recently, and he's had that Duke team playing pretty well for an extended period of time now. So Manny Diaz and Curt Cignetti are really the two guys where I think that maybe the team doesn't take that drastically of a regression, because I do think that they're good head coaches, but I think Manny Diaz probably less than Curt Cignetti though.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think every single program should throw $100 million at Curt Cignetti, because I don't think I've seen a rebuild turnaround this quick to get a team to that level or that top level of the nation, and like honestly ever. Like it reminds me a lot of like how Clemson like was able to rise up and they got really good at the national level, and you're just thinking like that's a decent program. It's got some history, more history than Indiana, but to actually have that program take that next step, having been, kind of out of the national spotlight for so long, is extremely impressive. I've never seen it. I think every single program should be after Cignetti. And I was looking at the rankings. I think they're 27th per 24/7 Sports in the 2026 class rankings. Like that is too low for how good Indiana has been and the kind of culture. But I think maybe Penn State is a great job, but I'm just not really seeing. I don't think Curt Cignetti is leaving just yet. Like I think maybe eventually down the line he's going to want to take another huge job. But I think right now I think he's okay with standing pat. And if Manny Diaz is the hire at the end of all of this, then yeah, I think that they made a mistake. And I'd be willing to say that. But Duke has been playing pretty well, so I'll give him that.